Hi, and welcome to the fifth video on Seychelles SDG budget tag. This is the last one of the five-part video series that we're going to do on the SDG budget tag. So you are already almost there in terms of being able to do the SDG budget tag by yourself. As I mentioned at the beginning, it's going to be easier for the Ministry of Finance in Seychelles to compile data in the SDG budget tag for future fiscal years, given that most of the work is during or happens during the first compilation or the first iteration of the SDG budget tag. Once you have the initial structured setup, it's much easier to do it to repeat the process in the future for future fiscal years. So definitely something that can be. I mean, you have some economies of scale in the process. So let's start by showing this first chart that we have been discussing since the beginning. This is the outcome of the exercise. We want to have an interactive version of this bar chart where we can see what kind of SDG financing exists for the 17 SDGs or Sustainable Development Goals. We want to make this as interactive as possible, meaning that we can navigate what kind of expenses are behind each bar. So let me just quickly show you the example here in this particular version. This is the one that we have available through the link for only those users that have the link. And as you can see, this is the interactive version where you can see what's behind the outcome that we want to compile. So let's say, for instance, that we want to know what's happening on SDG, let's say 15, which is life on land. And if we click on that one, we can see that the Ministry of Climate Change and Environment, as well as the Agriculture Ministry, are contributing to the financing for SDG 15 in this case. And we see that program 3 in the climate change and environment, which is related to biodiversity conservation management, that is very much related to SDG 15. And so that's the kind of insights that you can get from using this Power BI dashboard. Same thing if you click on sustainable cities, you will see that there is a number of ministries that are contributing to the financing for that SDG. And that's the kind of information that we want to compile at the end of the day. But at this moment, let me introduce Power BI. Power BI is a very useful tool for data visualization. It can do many things. You can work as you were using an Excel file within Power BI. You can use data visualization. You can transform data. The most common use for Power BI, which is related to the one we're going to have today, is to design and make available for other stakeholders interactive dashboards. And that's one of the main ways that you will see in terms of the use of Power BI. Power BI has, I would say, three licenses, three tiers of licenses. There is a free license, there is a desktop license, and then there is a professional license. Here we're going to focus in the middle one, the one that is called Power BI Desktop. The reason for that is that the most basic Power BI um, version, free version, doesn't allow you to publish dashboards publicly. And that's something that, in the case of the Ministry of Finance, you don't want to happen, right? You want to be able to share with other stakeholders, with other people within the Ministry of Finance, but also within the government or even beyond government. You want to show this kind of information, especially if you're gonna use it in a, for instance, in a VNR setting or those kind of outcomes. So uh, Again, we're going to use the Power BI desktop, which is not the professional one, but is the one that allows you to have everything that you will need for the compilation of this SDG budget tag. At the same time, that's the one that is going to make you or allow you to publish data for other users. So in terms of Power BI, we should just go directly to the app. As you can see, I have Power BI desktop, and there are a few things that we need to do. The first one is we need to load the data, right? We need to decide whether we want to load all data that we have, or whether we want to create new data. In this specific case, I want to show you how to proceed with Power BI from the beginning. So let's use a blank report, and we're going to compile the information. So clicking on the blank um, um, on the blank report, you have some options to add your data to your report. In this case, as you have seen in the previous videos, we have used Microsoft Excel. So we're going to import data from Excel, from our Excel file. So let's say I have a file that is called SDG budget tag. So that's the one we're going to load here. This is the one that we have discussed in the previous videos. So what Power BI will do as soon as you choose or select a file is going to ask you to select the tabs that you have available in your data. I have done a bunch of calculations in other sheets, but the main one that we have used so far in the previous videos to compile the SDG budget tag has been a tab that I call all. In that particular file, Power BI will show you how it is. I mean, what it looks like from a simplified version. It's showing you a preview. So here it's showing that there is a column called Portfolio, MDA, Mandate, Program, our dummy variable or binary variable, where we can determine whether it's an admin expense or non-admin, the program purpose, and all the information that we saw before, right? So that's the kind of information that is within that file, as well as the 170 columns farther ahead, right? So we're gonna go ahead and select that one, but we're also going to select other kind of information. I want you to look at the preview on this coloring database. As you can see here, I have the hexadecimal numbering that is allocated to each color related to SDGs. Each SDG has a very specific tone of color, which is described in this coding. So for SDG 1, this is the code, SDG 2, and that way, all the way to SDG 17 it will have that code. For 18, we have, I think, a standard a gray color, so that's not an issue. And so take that information also into account when you do that. The color, you want to have the colors. You can also add that information later, but I'm going to do it right away so that it doesn't give us, so we can do it faster. And also, we're going to include the labels. So let's remember at this point that we created our own coding for the 169 SDG targets. I mentioned at the beginning of this series of videos that each SDG target um, usually has like a 1.2, 3.5 numbering, but then there are some others that will have letters. And if you remember the framework for SDG implementation, SDGs have when you see an SDG target that has an A, B, or C, it relates to a means of implementation, meaning that it's not a specific target, but rather how the world and the members of the UN member countries actually agreed to carry out that information. So, for instance, 1.A and 1.B are those means of implementation for poverty reduction. And just like that, for each goal, for each of the 17 goals, you will see that there are letters A, even A, B, or C, to code those SG targets um, that will have information related to the means of implementations, to the agreement within the SDG framework that was agreed upon by all members of the UN, meaning all countries that are part of the UN. So we use our own internal code to avoid those issues that Excel will have in terms of reading between or going between. For instance, here you can see SDG target 1.5 and then 1.8. So whether it's a number or a letter, Excel will get confused. That's why we use our own, and it goes from 1 all the way to 170. Remembering that, um, remembering that the 170 code is a code for those expenses that are not related to any specific SDG. So that's the information that we have, and we want to load those three tabs. The information that we have, the most important one that we have discussed in the past videos, related to all budget, some colors and some labels. These are the labels that I'm showing you. So remember, we had our coding, the real SDG target label, and finally, we want to have an idea of which goal that is related to. So anything that says 16.8, 16.9, 16.1, obviously that's all 16, right? And likewise for all other SDG goals. So we're gonna go ahead and load that information. And if there is no error, we should have our database ready to go. So let's see what we have right here. Okay, so we actually have one error. Let's see what kind of error we have. The good thing about Power BI is that it will tell you um, what kind of errors you have in the data or what kind of inconsistencies Power BI sees in the data that you're trying to load. So when we click on View Error, we should get a sense of what's happening. So this is telling us that in the one error that it found, it's related to row number 151, related to the portfolio of other statutory bodies, and specifically the Law Commission. So something is happening in that information that didn't load very well. So you can see that there is some errors. Look at how um, Power BI tells you that there are some errors there. So we're gonna go ahead and close all of these so that we go back to the beginning. So um, we're gonna load the information the for our file, and then we're gonna see what's happening. Remember, in row 151, that's where there seems to be an issue. So if we go here to here we go, column 151, you will see that in the other statutory bodies um, row, we see the Law Commission, and there we go. You see these issues? There are some issues here. So we're going to fix them. So let's go ahead and see what the mistake is. We want the three SDGs to be multiplied by the three distribution of resources that we found before. In this case, you see that there is only two columns being taken. Well, it should actually take all three. So let's go ahead and fix that right away. And once we do that, we should get the same value. I mean the value, that the correct value. As mentioned before, we want to make sure that the columns are locked so that it always takes into account these three columns interacting with these three ones, with these three columns as we go further. That's why we're locking. That's why we're locking here the sorry, we were here actually. We want to make sure that we lock that value in the columns, and then for the reference of which SDG target we want that to move as we go on, right? So same thing. Here we should have the same issue. Okay, here we go. So we're gonna fix right away. Boom, and then that takes care of it, right? So we're gonna do that. Sorry. So we're gonna go ahead and being careful with how you lock those values. You want to extend that all the way to 170, and our control says that we are doing well in terms of adding the correct information. So now we should be all set to go back to Power BI. So let's go back to Power BI and let's see what kind of data we have to manage. So again, you want to open Power BI. You want to look for a new report. So we're going to start with a blank report. So let's go ahead with the blank report. And then we're going to import the data from Excel. We're going to use our main file. It's connecting to that file. It's loading the data. And remember that we have to load all the budget, the colors, and the labels that will allow us to use to return to the original SDG framework coding and include the SDG goal. So we're going to load that information, hoping that it's going to be corrected this time. And as you can see, all the data is ready. So let's go ahead and describe what Power BI looks like. As you can see here, I have the dark version. Obviously, there is another one that you will be able to see as a white version. I think it's the one by default. So the kind of data that we have included, you can see here, it's taking all the columns, the 170 columns. It's also taking into account the information that we have on the budget, but it's looking funky because it has only columns, right? So we want to know what's happening in the data. In order for us to do that, we need to go back to select here the transform data. So you want to see again what's the information that is contained right there. Okay, here we go. So as you can see, the first row, we should actually get rid of that one because we want to not have that gap. So we can go ahead and remove rows, as you can see. Here we have the information that we want to erase from this column, from this row actually, and we're gonna remove the row. So let's go ahead and remove that row. How many rows from the top we want to erase? Well, only one for now. And once we do that, you see that our main information goes up to the first row. However, we want to use that information within the column. We want that to be as column names. So what we're going to do is click on this option that says use first row as headers. Use first row as headers. And what that'll do is it will promote that column as headers. So now what we want to do is we want to make sure that we have the information, the columns in the right way. So for instance, here we have the information portfolio. That shouldn't be a number. That should obviously be text. That's why it says ABC. The name of the MDA or ministry, department, or agency, that is also ABC, meaning it's text. Same thing for the mandate, program, the specific program, the binary variable ones and zeros, or whether it's an admin program. Here it has 1, 2, 3, so it's okay. And overall, we want to make sure that there is no issue in terms of uh, the data. Here, actually, Power BI will tell you the extent to which you have some data. So it will tell you that you see how it's halfway through in terms of the green color. That's telling you that there are 41 valid data points for that column, and that around 59% or 59% is actually empty. And that's probably because we have some um, at this point in the file we have some empty spaces, given that it's going to be administrative data. So, and now you're going to see the columns. Here we go. So let's go back. From 1 to 170, we should see all those columns being either numbers, whole numbers, or decimal numbers. Whole numbers because most of them will have zeros, and decimal places or decimal data because we'll see um, um, resources for each SDG target here. So as you can see, we have all the correct information up to this point in the Excel file. So that's step number one. You want to load the data and you want to see the data within the Power BI, similarly to what you do um, on the Excel file. Okay, so once you have loaded the information on Power BI, the next step that we're going to do is clean a little bit more the data. So have some patience with me. We're going to clean up the data here in real time. You see, for instance, that there is the mandate, the text on what the priorities are for that MDA. We're going to remove that column because that's not something that we want to use. By removing the column, we are removing it within Power BI, within the data that was taken by Power BI. We are actually not erasing this information from the original Excel file. It's simply that at this moment, we don't need that information, so we're going to remove that one. As you can see here, you'll see a complete list of the steps that have been taken in the past. So if at any moment you get lost on your own calculations, you can actually go back to these steps and to trace what kind of operations you did for this. So if we move along, you will see that we have some more data. I don't think the program purpose. I mean, we don't have that in the dashboard. So let's go ahead and remove it. We're gonna remove that column too. Did I remove it? I don't think I did. Here we go. This is actually our most important column. So we don't want to erase that. Uh, PSI PSIP is not needed, so we're gonna go ahead and remove that. And then we have our main SG targets and all the calculations that we had before. So we're gonna go ahead and Power BI has something very interesting, uh, although it's a little bit problematic for first-time users, and is that Power BI, in order to do its own calculations and data visualization, it needs data in a particular way, which is called tabular form. By that, it means that it needs to have very simplified versions of columns and rows so that it's able to help you better with the information that uh, uh, will be displayed in different ways, whether it's a chart or a dashboard. So what we're gonna go ahead is we are going to select all the columns from the 169 SDG targets and the financing for those SDG targets that we calculated in the previous video, and we're going to unpivot. What that means is we're going to turn columns into rows, right? So we will have for the first line, we're going to switch back the way we present the data. So we're going to go back into having a lot of rows, because now we'll have one budget expense, and then it's going to be repeated, because it's going to have, as a column, it will have just the uh, we'll have that expense, and how much financing there is for SG target one, and then another row that repeats the same information, but for two, for three, four, five, six, all the way until 170 for each expense. Second expense, it will do the same thing. It will create 170 additional rows to have that information within the same column. We can put it in those terms. So we're going to click on one, and we're going to use the shift column all the way to 170. Here we go. We're actually all the way to 170. As you can see, we have selected all rows related to the 169 digit targets. Once we have the SG targets selected, we're gonna unpivot those rows. So let's see. We're gonna go to transform, and we'll see unpivot columns. In unpivot columns, unpivot only selected columns. That's what we're gonna do. We just did that, and now we have an attribute, a column called attribute. What that does is it took one expense and it put the value for the SDG financing in each row for each SDG target. So expense, all of this that we see right now is the expense number one, and we see the attribute, which is the SDG target, and the value for SDG financing for that particular target. So we did that, and now we're ready to move on to the next step, which is to put together the information or the linkage to the other tabs that we needed. So, but first of all, let's go ahead and close this tab. We're going to hit close and apply, so that the model that we were managing sort of in the cloud, now it's going to be added to Power BI finally. So we get that information already managed in there in the way we wanted. You can see now it has some labels that we now recognize, but we want to go to model view. And as you can see, we have three data sets that we compile, three sheets from the Excel file. We have all the budgetary information, we have colors, and we have information on the labels, on our internal label, with the real SDG label, and the 17 identifiers for that. So let's go back to report view, and let's do the merging. So now what we're going to do is we're going to attach this information to our budget. We're going to create a connection by putting the information from labels all the way to the budget data. So the way to do that is we're going to go to transform the data. I'm going to do it more manually. And we're going to merge queries. As you can see, merge queries. And then we have our budget information. So what we're going to say is, okay, let's look for the column that will create the linkage with, actually we need to do it first with labels. So first we need to attach to each, to this budget database, we're going to attach the information on internal numbering, which that's the way we identify, which is attribute. Attribute is the result of the unpivoting that we just did in the past few minutes. That's the result. As you can see, there is a column in the in the label tab or sheet that has that same information. So the key between those two, the commonalities between those two databases are related to what is denominated here as attribute, which is basically the 169 SG targets. So we want to join those two databases and basically what we see here is that we still need to manage something related to that attribute page. So this one right now, as you can see, it's taking that column as an ABC, so it's taking it as a text, but we don't want it to be taken as text. So what we are going to do is we're going to say that this is a whole number, and we don't see any error in that database. So that's going to be okay. So now we go back to what we were trying to do, which is merge queries. So we're going to hit merge queries, and we're going to tell, hey, do you remember that budget file? I want you to take the 169 SG targets, look for them in the labeling. The linkage is the 169 SG targets, and then you're going to be able to do the matching. Basically, here's the kind of matching that you will need. In this case, we're going to use all information from the first data set, and then we're going to match it. We're going to send this database, the second database, to match that of the other one. This is related to the size of each database. So once we do that, you see a review of what will happen. In this case, the result for that selection, once we hit OK, is that 45,730 rows will be matched to this file that we did. So once we hit OK with that, you will see what it creates. It's a table because there is a lot of information within each value. So we want to go ahead and expand that. And let's go ahead and we got our information ready. Okay, that should be all that is needed on this side. Now, if we close and apply, we should see a linkage now between those two databases. So as you can see, let me remove this out of the picture. We just noticed that there is a linkage between the labels and our budget file. So we want to include also the colors. So in order to do that, we need to go back to transform data and manually create the linkages. So again, we're going to merge queries. The SDG targets. We're going to look for colors. We actually need to link the colors of each sustainable development goal, each of the 17. So that's why we're looking for only the column that says goal from 1 to 17. We're going to find it in the database here, and we're going to ask the computer to Power BI to put this second column or this information that is here on all other budget items. But let me go ahead. I see a bunch of other data that is here. I want to clean that up. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to go to colors, and then I'm going to clean. Let's use Shift to clean that database that we see that has a bunch of noise. So we're going to remove those columns, and now we see a more clear file. So we see the 17 SDGs and their coloring. So we're going to close and apply, and then now let's get back to what we were trying to do. Oh, still loading. Here we go. Transform data. We are going to merge queries. And again, we're going to tell Power BI to look for SDG SDG goal, look for that information within the coloring. Remember that this is the key, our key variable between both data sets, and add that information. As you can see, it's telling us that if we proceed that way, the selection matches 45,730 rows from the first table. So we will see a successful version of this merging. So let's go ahead and click OK and expand that column for colors. Uh, there we go. And now you have all the information that is needed. So let's go ahead and see what we have right now. We should now see a linkage between colors and our budget, as you can see it right there. So now the budget information has been linked to the colors, to SG colors for the chart, and as well as the labels. So just to summarize the steps that we have taken so far until this moment, remember that we took a single file, a single Excel file, and we uploaded three different tabs from that Excel file. We connected them in the past few minutes, showing how they can be connected through the merge component. This is actually a very intuitive way to connect the three sets of information that we had that we pulled from a single Excel file, right? Remember that that single Excel file had the budget data, had the coloring codes, as well as the labeling codes. So what we just did in the past few minutes was connect those three databases using the merge function of Power BI. So by creating those links, we now have a model, basically a way to connect all the information for us to do calculations. So that's in terms of the how to connect the databases internally. Remember that these connections are things that we do within the model in Power BI. This doesn't mean that we are somehow changing the data, the underlying data from the original Excel file. Basically, what Power BI does is it takes the original Excel file and it makes transformations without touching the original data. So we are managing connections between our data, in this case, three data sets, without actually getting involved in or without actually touching the original data file, which is something that we don't want. So going back to the format or to the page that we want to create a format for, we're going to do 5 steps in terms of creating our visual for Power BI. If you remember, this is the Power BI that we're trying to compile. We're trying to copy or to recreate something along these lines, something very similar. That's what we're trying to do. So let's go ahead and build it. So let's first start. We're gonna, as you saw, we have 5 things here that we need to copy or to recreate. Number one is gonna be the title. Number two is going to be the main chart. Number three is going to be the table. Number four, we're going to have some cards, some numbers, subtotals that we can manage, can be useful, and that can be useful once you do the calculations. And number five, we're going to add some makeup, basically all the images, logos, and everything else. So let's go ahead and start with the title. That's going to be basically we're going to insert. As you can see here, there are many functions. You want to see the one for. We're going to look for the one for text. However, it's actually located up here, text box. If you see that up here, and we're going to put here. Let's call it SDG financing for Seychelles. SDG financing for Seychelles. That's going to be our working title. That's the idea for us to work with. Title to the middle, and we're going to adjust the size for all of title that we have created. That's basically something for you to determine how big you want it, what kind of colors you want in the text. For now, let's just select a font that would allow us to see the main insights. So we got the title, which is step number 1 of 5 in this canvas. Step number 2 is the most important chart, which is going to be a clustered column chart. So we're gonna go ahead and select that. You're gonna determine the size that you want to occupy within the page, and then we're gonna load the data within the Power BI. So in order for us to do that, you will see that once you create that, you click on that clustered clustered chart. You get the option to determine a horizontal axis as well as the vertical axis. So for that, you're gonna take the SDG, the goal. We want to have this data at the level of the 17 SDGs. So we're gonna go ahead and put that as in the in the horizontal um, axis. Now for the uh, for the total value, or for the vertical value, we want to have the total value that we calculated. You can see, however, here that I actually included um, the uh, the incorrect version of the information that we need. We actually want the information to be compiled at the level of 100. Sorry, at the level of the 17 SDGs. So we're gonna go ahead and remove that, and it's this one. It's the label for the SDG goal. And so you can already see that we are getting the numbers that we have been trying to compile. You can already see that we have similar size in terms of column. Look at how it goes from number 1 to number 3, goes down a little bit to number 4. That's a similar distribution, if not the same, that we have here. However, there is one difference, and is that we don't have here percentages on the vertical axis. We don't have percentages, but rather, as it is right now, it has Seychelles rupees. So we don't want that. So let's go ahead and select that variable, and we're gonna tell Power BI to show the values as percentage of the grand total, and that way you can see that we have the labels. But now there's a big difference, and it's that the columns are blue. What we want is the real colors that each SDG has, right? So we're gonna go ahead and format that. The way to do that is to click on that visual, because you always have to click on the visual that you want um, to change or adjust or tailor. And here in the first option of Power BI, you will see for this particular chart all the options for the data. Then the second one, you will see the format for this particular chart that you have selected. So once we do that, we go to columns. There are so many options to tailor, to do some tweaks for you to put this data in coloring at your convenience. So in this case, we want to show the colors of the columns. So as you can see, once you click columns, you'll see a blue color. So we're gonna go ahead and click on the function uh, because we want to tell Power BI to, depending on the value of that column, of that SDG, of that sustainable goal, to pick up the specific uh, uh, hexadecimal code. So we're going to go ahead and click on the format style. We're going to click on field value, and then we're going to do that for the color, hexadecimal color. So once we do that, actually I did not click on the right one. Let's go ahead and do that one more time. Remember that we need to click on the labels that we created on the connections that we just created a few minutes ago. So we're gonna go ahead and click on hex color, and now you see the familiar colors that we see for each SDG target. After that, that's something that we use to modify the column one. Now we do want also to have some percentages on top. So you're gonna go ahead and activate the data labels button that is right below the columns options that we just explored and adjusted. So go ahead and click on that one, and then you'll see the percentages for that. Here you can actually tailor it as much as you want. What I usually like to do is only to leave a specific value, which is only to show only one decimal value. So I'm going to click on one decimal position, and that's it. So now as you can see, we see SDG 1, 2, 3 has 18.3%, which is actually what we got here, 18, well, in this case, it is 18.4. So perhaps there was a little change, but as you can see, all other percentages remain the same. So basically, we already have the data that we need. So this is step number two. Remember that step number one for painting the canvas was the title. The second one is going to be this one that we just created, the columns. Third one is going to be the table with the more detailed information. Fourth is going to be the subtotals. And finally, for the fifth step, we're going to do some makeup related steps, which include uploading the flags or labels or logos that we want to specify. So we already compiled the first two, title and this. Let's go ahead and include the table. So we're gonna rearrange a little bit so we have enough space for our table. And we're gonna go ahead, simply click in on any component that is white, because otherwise it will get mixed up with the calculations that you have done before. So you're gonna click outside of that area, and you're gonna click on table. Then you specify which the size that you want, and now you need to specify the columns for that specific table. So what we want to do is we want to include the MDA. That's one thing that we want. We definitely want some information on the program. So here we add the program. Um, we also want to include um, some information related to the total amount of the budget that we calculated. And that way we will be able to see all the details that we have. So let's go back and check on the file that we have. As you can see here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns, which is ministry, program, budget, the amount of financing that we found, and the SDG target. So that's what we want to include here too. So let's go ahead and click and find that information. So we have MDA, we have program. Now we're gonna include value because that's the total amount of for the for the budget that we found. We have sum of value too. So I think we have all the information that we need. And we also need the label. So we should put it at the end. So if we add it here, you will see that we have that information. Actually, let me go ahead and erase that one. So basically, we have just created the labels with all the data that we need so far. We have the ministry, the program, the value that we found, the SDG information, SDG financing information that we got, and we are only missing basically the number, um, the program, I mean the SDG target that we assign. So let's go ahead and I think it's this one, or is it the same one? Okay, yeah, that's the one. So we got the label right there. So basically, you can tailor this table as much as you want. For now, let's just say that we're gonna do a look for or a sort by agency. That's about it. Okay, so we got all the information related to SDG financing on the table. So once you click on, let's say, SDG 16, you will see all the programs that are related to that, right? Um, Basically, that's about it. So you can click on now any specific column and see which programs are related there, are have been identified by there. If we sort by value, you'll see that the biggest expenses that are included within SDG3 are these specific ones, since we sorted them out. And that way you can navigate on your own, and as well as the user can navigate the data information. So we already calculated or included three of the five items that we want to include for this particular visual. So now we're going to go ahead and include the cards, which is a specific visual here. And the use for that is to calculate subtotals. That's going to be useful for us because as we navigate the budget details, we want to see how much we are compiling and that kind of information. So let's go ahead and remember that you need to add some fields in this particular area. So what we want to do in this for this particular card is to include the total value. So let's go ahead and include that in the fields. As you can see, it has included the total value, which is 10.3 billion Seychelles rupees. And as you navigate, you will see different values for each. So that'll give you a sense of the total amount of resource that you are calculating. You can definitely change how many decimals, you can change the title, you can definitely customize that one. So let's go ahead and click outside. That's very important. Click outside and then click on another card where we want to include a measure of how many MDAs we are including in that particular chart. So let's go ahead and do count. Distinct count, we only want to count how many uh, um, um, MDAs are being included in this specific count, since we are not clicking on any specific column. It's telling us that there are right now 87 ministries, departments, or agencies. And finally, you can definitely add another card to include the number of programs. So let's go ahead and include this particular uh, data field, and we want to only count them once, right? So right now we have a total count of 223 programs, which sort of aligns or makes sense. It's coherent with the total number of rows that we used to have in the Excel file. If you remember, we had that same amount of rows in our Excel file, and that's about it. So once you click, as you click on the data label, on the SDG that you want, you will get more information on that particular one. Okay, so we have created 4 out of 5 visuals that we established for ourselves. Finally, the last step is to include the labels or the logos, and basically to make it more beautiful or user friendly in terms of what kind of scales, color scale or schemes you want to include. Something that aligns probably with the institutional uh, um, uh, guidelines that exist for labels. So the way to do that is to include specific pictures. So let's go ahead and do that in the next few minutes. Okay, so um, as I was saying, a way to include uh, the labels or logos that for the institution is to go to get an image. And once you have your image stored, you just need to attach it. The way to do that is to click on insert, and you're gonna click on image. And in this case, let's say that we want to include the flag of Seychelles. So we're gonna go ahead and put that on top. Let's say that we also want to include an image for the 17 SDGs, which is something that we do have. Um, so we're going to go ahead and include that specific bar. So you have the information aligned to what we have been showing. So remember that this is a bar with 17 SDGs and also the including the category, the label doesn't apply, right? That to label programs that are not um, financing a specific SDG target. So that way we have the 17 SDGs with the 18, which is the one that doesn't apply. Um, and we pretty much have all the information that we need. Anything else is going to be secondary or additional. You can definitely add more logos. In the case of the one that we have been managing before, it includes a logo for INFF, and it includes some other buttons in case you want to filter specific themes for your analysis, which is definitely something optional. But the main component is for you to be able to have clarity on how to compile the main components that will allow you to navigate budgetary details, and we have them right now. We already have them, which is the columns as well as the table. You can definitely play around with the table. You can change the name of the variables. The way to do that is to click on the visuals. You're gonna go to specific column. You can select which column you want to modify. Let's say that total value you want to change this label. You definitely can do that. You can change the coloring of how it's showing on the column. So there are many ways to adjust your data. So that's about it. As you saw, there are definitely multiple ways to do this. As you start getting comfortable with Power BI, you will notice that there are many ways to arrive to the same result in different ways. You can program. There is a function for you to program. The language that is embedded within Power BI is called DAX, DAX, and that's also optional for you to do. Nowadays, you can also use Copilot to sort of help you out in the navigation and creation of these Power BI visuals. So in the future, it will even get easier for you to consult with Copilot in case you find an obstacle or you cannot find a specific future that we have discussed, and perhaps in the 2 or 3 years down the road, the Power BI has rearranged some options, and perhaps you don't see them right away. So that's also a way for you to find out more information and more help. So that's it in terms of next steps. Or we don't have any more steps for now. The idea is for you to compile this information on your own in the next fiscal year. If you have any question, please go ahead and rewatch these 5 videos that we have made available for you. Remember that this is a methodology that was developed by UNDP, and for that I want to go back to um, a five-step process that we presented beforehand. If you remember, we started with some inputs for the budget. We had the budget in PDF. We chose a budget stage, which is very important. I know that the Ministry of Finance in Seychelles has clarity on all the different stages, budget stages throughout the fiscal years. So it's important to choose one and be consistent with that one. And also, as I show in the first video, we need to have the list of the 169 SG global SG targets. Once we have that, what we did was we compiled all programs in a single spreadsheet for easy navigation. We only compiled the information that we needed. We determined which programs were administrative related because, as we saw, they have a different treatment. Um, we associate up to three SDG targets for each program that does not have an administrative nature. In some cases, when there is not enough information or detailed information on what the program is doing, uh, um, at face value, we need to go into the PDF and look for outcome indicators to understand what kind of policy goal the program or the budget the budget line is trying to do. Once we did that, we distributed the resources that we see in the budget into those chosen SDG targets. We made sure that we defined a percentage that we chose, and we determined a percentage for to be allocated for the main SDG target and the secondary SDG target. That's something that can definitely be tailored even by sectors. Could be it doesn't have to be 75 and 25%. It could be 60% for some sectors, 80% for others, and the remaining for the secondary SDG targets. Um, we also need to take into account that there is an additional treatment for non-administrative expenses compared to the admin expenses. And the way to do that, as we saw throughout the past videos, is to understand the distribution of SDG financing in MDAs or in ministries, that in the component that is non-administrative, that will give us a sense of what the ministry is trying to do. Ministry, department, or agency is trying to do. Once we get an information on that at the non-administrative level, we can actually compile the subtotals by MDA to understand what kind of distribution exists for SDG financing at the ministry level. And then we impute or attach that same distribution of SDG financing on administrative expenses, under the assumption that administrative expenses within the government's budget support non-administrative expenses. And based on that, we created a final step to do a visual dashboard, which requires some data transformations beforehand, which we did at the beginning of this video, as well as an interactive dashboard. So remember that this is the methodology that comes from this UNDP document that I encourage you to check out and to review. It has a detailed guidelines on what to or how, on how to navigate um, the different steps that we have explained. But I obviously, instead of reading the document, I would actually encourage you to see these videos, which are actually a more visual and step-by-step support on how to replicate on your own for future fiscal years the SDG budget tag. So once again, thank you. If you have any question, please remember to rewatch all these videos and see you in the next training session.